Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to this first talk. We're going to go for a round table. So thank you for joining us. Um, and for the next slide, please. And for today, we have three guests that are leaders in different teams and different companies. So for today, we have our guests, Carolina, Natasha, and Eulalia. And we're going to host the roundtable about leadership from Happy Pet Lab. So this is Griselda, and my partner Dana that is helping me with the slides. Thank you so much. So yeah, the idea for today is to navigate a little bit of the challenges that we're going to face as future leaders building games, leading teams, and dealing with the complexity of basically have the interactions of multidisciplinary teams. So for the rounds of introductions, let's start with Carolina, please. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi to everybody. So, such a pleasure to be here today. And well, what I can tell right now, I'm the COO of Tiny Potion Tree, which is an indie studio based in Andorra. We are an 11 people team right now, and we are working on Wonder Sky, which is our first project. Quite ambitious. We are working really hard on that. And in my professional background, I've been through education, consultancy, a lot of things, and now I've been the last years working on that. And I'm really enjoying the experience of being here in the video game industry. I feel it's really, really good ambience here. So yeah, that's for me. Yeah.
Thank you for joining. Natasha, can you tell us about yourself?
Absolutely. So, and I will try to keep it short since I do have several hats in the games industry. But most importantly, as a day job, I'm a CEO and creative director of an indie company from Finland called MiTale. We develop narrative-driven RPGs at the end of the day. It ends up to always be some RPG. But other than that, we are a fully independent studio with self-financed, self-published titles with 25 developers and growing. And we established 8 years ago. However, I have my one foot also in academia. I'm teaching courses of game design and digital art and interactive experiences at University of Turku, where I'm also just now finishing, like it got approved, my doctorate on the topic of interactive storytelling with quantum computing. But I promise you, I won't bore you with any of that. And most of my name might have popped up because of the community engagement that I am very active for over a decade, like close to 15 years with IGDA, and most recently as one of the founders of We Love Games organizations for women and we as people who make and love games and empowering especially indies through Indie Alliance. And that's also, like, it's really wonderful to be part, of course, of this event, and I'm very grateful to be part of this panel, so thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And last but not least, we have Eulalia. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello. So my name is Lali. You can call me Lali. I work as a key manager right now at Voodoo. I've been working in the video game industry for already 5 years. Although my background has nothing to do with that. I'm a journalist. I actually created my own newspaper, worked in the TV, in the radio, all over the world. Well, in Spain, and have now landed in the video game industry. I'm absolutely loving it. And Voodoo is a Paris-based company, although we work remotely. Here, especially in Barcelona, we have a medium big team, around 50 people, I think, or even 60 maybe. We are inside the hyper-casual gaming. It's a really complex, I think, interesting world to be in, and I'm still learning, daily learning, and listening actively to the environment that we have. And I'm really happy to be here to have the chance to share my experience and my knowledge with all of you. And so thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And then we're going to start the first topic of our roundtable, precisely again, related to the part of leading multidisciplinary teams. So we're going to talk about the technical focus of a leader. And the first part is about how do we manage this complexity when we have all these different crafts and different styles of communication. So I have a question for you guys. So I was wondering, how do you keep the communication smooth between the different crafts like art, design, technical, and every other craft that you're working with, for instance, music? And how do you keep this communication just flowing? Maybe Carolina, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Well, in our case, I would say we have been trying a lot of things in terms of communications, as we are half team presentially and the other half almost it's in remote. We have the development team presential in the office and the rest of the team, design and art, are on remote. So it's quite been challenging, I would say, to keep the communication. But for me, in my case, what it worked for us, it was putting clear processes about how do we manage this communication. Of course, we can go on daily meetings every day where everybody of us takes part on that. And in the beginning, we split it like only development, then only art. But in the end, of course, we had the need to do all together this type of communication. And something that happened quite to us, I don't know if you share that, but it's we use Discord for communicating, and having to break a little bit what's the individual and private messaging. It was a big issue in terms of communication because there was tons of decisions that were made in private conversations and not shared. So basically, what worked for us in our case, it's these daily meetings and establishing a process where all the decisions has to be discussed around the team, and in terms of development, designing it all together, making meetings to do that, and then once we agree, we share this and we do documentation which is really accessible for everybody, especially in the design part, which is not easy to have a GDD completely and well-structured, accessible for everybody. It's been really practical for us in terms of having a great communication between all of them and having the information available for everybody using, of course, digital tools and making communication open and not private, I will say. Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah, a lot of transparency on your team.
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you. Natasha, how about you?
It really all depends on the team and people, in my opinion. Because let's be honest, in the indie team, usually indie teams are small. And it can be even few people, but in our case now we have 25 people. So it's not that big, but yet it's not small anymore, kind of thing. So you basically have to make sure that your processes evolve, and it's not that the processes are made to make lives easier and work easier for people and not other way around, meaning that it's not like here are the processes, we need to follow them. No, we need to make processes then to fit every individual in that team. Now, every team works differently, let's be honest. And also in our case, so I will just talk about our case now for a moment to give the more context of why I will be saying maybe controversial things. 25 people and working currently on 7 different projects. And people will go, how? How do you do this? And no crunch, nothing. We are all very old with families and other stuff outside of work, so regular working hours, and yet how we do all of this in time, professionally, both B2B and our B2C, our games. Basically, we have, because most of our team members are seniors, nobody needs to be basically held by hand. They know what they have to do and how they need to do. So it's all about very transparent communication and avoiding useless meetings. We don't do meetings for the sake of having meetings. We have dailies, which are, 10, 15 minutes, that's it. But the rest, and then monthly team meeting with everyone, with all this, because we have smaller teams working on different projects and then shifting around as it goes. So it's very, because it's way easier to manage 3 people than 25 people within the team. So they handle, just like Supercell, small teams are handling their own things and communicate and asking Others, if they need extra help and support. But the thing is that full transparency in that way, and we give them ownership. We give them ownership to make these decisions. So I don't have to make all the decisions, or any COO or any other. So smaller teams work way more efficiently if you give them that ownership. That's in our experience. Now, I don't recommend that if that doesn't work for your team, or you have, just generally, you have to see, of course, what works for. But this works for us. So basically, this is where also, if someone has this sort of like specific questions, and so what has been helping very much, actually, concept artists have been solving so many questions when it comes to the design, to actually clarify what the vision is, because it's way easier in one picture to show what the design vision is, that coder will actually be on the same page, same as 3D, let's say, modeler or animator or music, like creator or whoever else. So, or UI UX designer. So basically, just simple concept art was the most powerful tool for us to put everyone, because if we read design document, we all read it from a completely different perspective. So this is another thing that worked very well for us between the disciplines.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm really liking the part that we're bringing the part of the values also. We're talking about transparency, we're talking about trust, and this is super important. Obviously, you need to balance the part of if your team is super senior or if they need mentorship, but it's important to trust your team at the end of the day. Lali, how about you?
Yeah, completely agree. Trust is like the base on the big pillar in the I mean in the work industry, right? It's not only if it's senior or not, maybe they need some extra help, but you need to trust and obviously avoid micromanagement always, just like a big red flag. But I guess it's also like the view of communication. You need to read as well the people. You need to have like an active listening. You need to have like an intercultural look into everyone, right? We are not all the same. We don't communicate the same. We don't use the same tools, and you need to see also that and see if maybe people don't feel comfortable speaking, or if they do prefer like written communication. That's also super important. It's also part like different kind of communication, but it needs to be coming from your side as well, and understanding the difference, and that's what makes us a big team and strong team, to be different. So yeah, I completely agree on your side as well. I think we are on the right direction.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Great. Let's talk about another topic also related to the technical focus. Can you go back, please? That we're going to talk about innovation and creativity. So, from the part of leadership, I was wondering, how do you guys encourage new ideas, but putting in balance the risk and the stability of your current project? How do you handle that part? So, obviously, your people have the freedom to be creative, to be bold, and to bring new ideas, but obviously, caring about the product, caring about the business. How do you handle that part? Carolina, you want to start?
Sure. Well, for us, something that's been really helping us in that, it's first of all understanding that in the video game industry, it's super common. I would say 100% of the times that people is here because they love video games. It's not like in other businesses where this is not like that. So it's really common to luckily have people in the team that can bring a lot to the project, because we genuinely love video games and that's why we are doing them. So for us, we've been, I would say, through a little bit of chaos at the beginning, where all the ideas were kind of challenged, accepted, moving on with that, and that made it a little bit difficult to balance. So what helped us a lot on that was to establish clear pillars of our game, like what do we want to do, what do we want to deliver, establishing this vision and accepting all the feedback and new ideas that are fitting these pillars and this vision of the game. So we don't go super crazy, but we can always bring new ideas that are matching what we want to do. So in terms of that, it's always a matter of making some magic in terms of planning. So because sometimes a new idea pops up, it's super good, it perfectly fits with that, but normally you have to understand that if you add something, normally there is something that needs to go out because we need to fit to a plan, right? So I think that the way we encourage it, it's being, as we said, super open and understanding that everybody in the team is able, and it's super important to let them know that they can bring these ideas and that we accept them, because that's how you can make a really good video game, breaking a little bit the idea of one God that make all those decisions and all the decisions are right, right? I mean, it's like, yeah, the designer will take all the decisions and everything will be on him. That's super big responsibility on that, and being and accepting new ideas, of course, that are fitting our vision and our pillars. I think that in our case, it worked really well, and it enriched a lot the project in general. So yeah, that's how we manage it somehow. Yeah.
Cool. How about you?
Yeah. So, once again, benefit of being completely independent and self-published is that you can do as crazy ideas as you actually want, but how do you handle it is scoping. For us, extremely important, what is doable to that particular time, so what we have dedicated, what is possible. So basically, what is possible to do with, let's say, team members who are now part of that are supposed to do, and how to handle it. So scoping and figuring out that is really, it's a skill that you will learn by doing. There is no other way. You have to make games, make mistakes, and learn how to estimate your time is by doing stuff and then learning more how you are doing stuff so that you can estimate your time better through failure, mostly. So embrace the failure. So encouraging new ideas, what I usually do, especially as a game designer, if someone comes like, hey, even let's say coder, or comes and says, hey, what if we would have something like mechanic-wise, or something like within a code? Or it can be anything, it can be artist, or it can be like wherever, comes up like, hey, what if? Show me. And what I would encourage them is that, so show us as a team, but kind of like show us, show us what you got. So basically make a very fast and dirty prototype, sketch, whatever, especially as a coder. Make it, just fast and dirty to show that what's your vision. Because again, that might be that thing that would be wonderful to implement, but might be a feature creep. And I'm a big believer in data and testing. So very fast, so scoping and testing as early as you can. As a game designer, I really believe that the good game design is the absolutely most important thing. No matter how good code, beautiful graphics, or wonderful story you have, it's useless if design is not there. So design comes first, and design can be tested with sticks and stones. And that's why we have good games that are so easy to make into board games or other way around, so analog, digital, hybrid, and whatnot, cross-platform and so on, because design is so bloody good. So focus on design and how to do it, try it, test it, and quick and dirty just to see, is it there? Is there something there? If there is, go for it. If it's not, out, kill it. Kill your babies. That's literally what it means in itself. So, but try. And that's the thing, experiment. Don't be afraid to do that. And that's where that sort of encouragement of show us what you got. Yeah, you have an issue. Do it. Get it out of your system. Because even if it's a bad idea, if you're still cooking it inside and like, oh, I didn't get a chance to do it, it's like you're going to still keep a grudge that I think this is good. No, try it. Get that. Literally, get that thing out of your system, especially if it's bad. And quicker you do it, the faster we go forward with actual progress. So that's our process.
Really nice. I really like the part of sometimes you're going to fail fast, and then iterate.
I mean, I have been working in the mobile games industry, especially the high peak of the mobile games. I'm from Finland, so it's like for the 6 years. And I can tell you that was the whole thing, the amount of knowledge, like, because it's so fast and you have to have this whole level. There's no more, like, kill it, next. Like this, and fast failing in that sense in testing. But trust your data. That's kind of like, and data can be just like within the team or testing with other dev team, like some other indies. Test it, how does it feel? Even if it's a prototype, because fellow devs will understand placeholders. Show them around, like try it. So don't be afraid to show your work as early as you can.
And how do you handle the part of this part of failing fast and also balancing the risk in your team, Lali?
I think we do something very similar. Actually, we work with Kickoff. So Kickoff, it's basically showing the team what we're expecting and what we're achieving, and then we always say that the clay is wet. So we work with wet clay. So it's completely moldable. You can change it, you can destroy it, and make it again, right? So that process is actually really short. So since like from the start to the end, it can be a couple of weeks. It cannot. It can be longer, but it shouldn't be longer than that because, as you say, you need to fail fast, and you need to try. You need to iterate. You need to A/B test it, and then once you reach like the the I don't know, the key of the success, then you keep on iterating because you cannot stay still. Otherwise, it's going to be obsolete and the people going to be bored about the idea and it's in constant change. So yeah, basically to be flexible, um, to adapt to changes, and always to listen to other ideas and proposals. That's super important, to be actively listening to other people's ideas, not only designers or developers, but anyone can be, having a good idea that you're maybe not listening because it's not part of the craft. But maybe that is the actual idea that you were needing. So especially in smaller teams, yes, that is a really big, helpful thing that we have, and we should use it.
Totally. Perfect. Thank you so much. Then we're moving forward to the next discussion that is going to be about holistic and human-centered leadership. So for the first part that is going to be comprehensive project vision, I was wondering, how do you keep the big picture in mind while managing all the details of the project? So maybe we can invert the order, and if you want to start, Lali.
Okay, well, the response is quite simple in a way. So we work for the players. We don't work for ourselves. So that's the the big picture we have to keep in mind always is this an idea that the player will enjoy, or are we making it for ourselves? Is this something that we want to make it because it was in the roadmap? But maybe, the roadmap was designed in January and now it doesn't make any sense. But do we want to keep it? Or the game has changed so much that for the player now it doesn't make any sense and we might be able to do something completely different that the player might be needing. You have to listen to the player as well. What's the need? Do they want to make a clan for the game? Do they want to make a chat? What do they need, right, to keep them engaged and to keep them playing? So I think the main focus from my side and also from QA is to keep the player always inside, not to forget that we are working for them. It's not working for us, but working for them.
Oh, I really like it. This totally player-centric focus. Really nice. And how about you and your team, Natasha?
Yeah, so again, I will now focus on, let's say, our products, because when you work as a B2B, like with your clients and partners and so on, it's different. Of course, you have the whole processes with that. So let's not talk about that. That really is based on the partnership. But when you work on your own products, especially because that's where the passion, most motivation really is, which is tricky to, of course, control, and especially kind of keeping that scope and everything we spoke about. One thing that I would highly recommend is to pick your battles, because there are so many issues that can arise, and you really need to figure out which battles you are going to fight and when. Fires are there, but which fire we are going to handle now and together as a team. So that basically you see the progress, you can feel the achievements, even if it's daily kind of thing. So that's one thing, but also being able to pivot fast is something to reevaluate. That's where kind of data and everything you said, like that you are testing and doing all this and figuring out how to, like based on the feedback you receive from players and so on. So you need to be ready and flexible at any moment to really adjust things out. But then again, I really think selective hearing is another skill that it's really important to develop, because you don't want, not every feedback is something you need to listen to. You know that you as a team, you know the vision of your product. You know exactly who is your target audience, or at least you should. So based on that, don't just do every change and things and so on that you hear, but trust also your guts, trust your expert and your vision, because you know your product best. And this is something, especially if you're working with publishers and so on, how to communicate that and how to make it all work together if you're working. As a self-publishing, like making your own limits in that way. So what is doable? Again, scoping. And yeah, pretty much going with that kind of like based on the results, like our milestone, don't necessarily just go that, is this done by that milestone, for example, that we have, let's say, 2-3 months, or if it's quarterly, for example, like big picture of that kind of piece. Like we also use it as a complete reevaluation that, as you said, is this even relevant? Because some stuff are not even relevant. Let's take some stuff away from the Jira tickets and stuff like that. So this is the thing, like selective hearing and really listening is the most important thing there, especially of your team. So that's how you keep like the big picture while handling all these little daily, especially daily fires that just keep popping. And you have a little plastic water gun. So yeah, it's lots of fun.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And how about you? How's your case? With putting the fires away.
I completely agree on what you just
On the
said.
water little.
No, but for me, I think that something that in my personal case helped a lot is trust in the team, to be able to understand that we don't need to be in every single detail. Like, we do not need to be there. If we have to do a meeting about how modeling rocks, there is no need to be there. We don't care. It's okay. They will do it. But this is a work of trusting what the team does, of making sure that the team also have a global view of what they're doing, and that our vision is clear, transparent, and accessible for all of them. So you make sure that during all these little tiny meetings, issues, thingies that appears in the middle, you can be selective on what you hear and what you don't. So I think that as a big briefing of what you both already said, it's having really clear what you want to do, for who are you doing that, having that really clear, and trusting that the team is managing properly what they are doing in the little details, so we don't have to chicken mama everything. No need to chicken mama. It's okay. So that would be. Yeah.
Perfect. Going back to the principle of trust in your team, so really insightful. Thank you so much. And just before doing this exercise, we were talking a lot about sometimes being a lead, it's about putting the people first. And one of the things that comes to my mind is, how do you handle in your teams the part of trying to avoid the burnout and have a balanced workload in your different teams? Lani?
Yeah, I mean, I try to avoid the burnout myself, because to be honest, I've been also working under the most horrible possible situation, which is the crunch. I hope you don't know what is crunch, because I don't recommend it even to my worst enemy. So I also try to avoid burnout myself. The most important thing I try to work on is to establish internal and external limits. So once you understand that work will never end, so there will not be a day that you say, yeah, work is done. I have nothing else to do until tomorrow. No way, it's not going to happen. Never going to happen that. You will always have to do something. There will be always a task pending. There will be something that you need to prepare for the following day or for the next week, something. So you need to set yourself some limit, and then work with the team so they understand that work is work. So we have like the amount of time which is limited. The hours are the hours we have, and it's all about organizing the time well, and having like time boxing everything. So let's focus on a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there, and then once the day is done, well, then next day we will keep on doing that. But it's not going to end today. So once you have like a good organization and good time management, and that is also communicated well to the team, I think they will not feel that pressure. So it will be a bit like filter the pressure. It will not go to them. And at the end, I mean, it's about understanding that work is work, and your life is your life. So burnout can be like the biggest disaster that can happen inside the team. So it's a big monster that you need to avoid and fight in a daily basis. And I try my best.
Thank you so much. It's actually what we were saying previously. Remember that building a team and building a game is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So yeah, we need to think that also what is making our game great is the people that is working on it. And how about you, Natasha?
Oh, so, again, I will just speak about how we do it in our team and what works for our people. Because again, it's always about individuals being heard and trust above all, and really, really, I really mean open, flat hierarchy communication. That's the whole thing. At least that's how we are. We have fully flat hierarchy in the company. We are also equally all paid as well. There is no even difference between programmer, artist, or me as a CEO. We have the same salaries. So there is this thing as a company culture that we have from the start created, that we're in this together. And that's, by the way, not for everyone. We are not necessarily a good team for someone who wants to do whatever ladder climbing. Where are you climbing? It's like we are making games here together. So that's, again, how we do it and what works for us. So that's where the trust, like building trust, is the first thing, because when we are estimating and doing stuff, especially multiple projects, I said we always have multiple projects going on. Every single team member is part of that planning. It's not like me or COO or anyone else, any lead comes and says, oh, you need to do, this is what we're going to do. No, we create this plan together, so people take their responsibility in the sense that what feels for them. So I'm very big on your boundaries. Set your boundaries, what you're comfortable of doing, what you like, what you want to do, what you don't want to do. Maybe not in this project, even because maybe in previous project you did way too much, let's say, animation rigging, and now you really don't want to do that anymore. You want to break, say it, someone else will handle it. So basically communicating in that sense and saying that sort of like what you want, what you don't want to do in that sort of capacity at the moment is really crucial. But that comes from trust. Because again, we all have weaknesses and strengths, all of us. So the point here as a team is that both weaknesses and strengths come together, that we overcome all of that together, because also life happens. Child gets sick, we all have kids, this and that happens. Daycare calls, school calls, this happens, I don't know, grandma call, like whatever happens. Like the thing is, go handle that. There is always someone who will handle it. So in the projects with the clients, for example, what we do is that there is always a backup, like this sort of backup lead, so to say, that if the lead is having something else like that, like handling even maybe private matters, there is another contact point who is going to handle on immediately, because they're equally doing. So basically sharing that load between ourselves have been tremendous help, that we could not just manage all these multiple projects, but also do it within work time, because crunch is a big problem, and crunch never happens planned. Never. The point is that that's where the kind of beauty of planning comes, that you can avoid it by simply improving your planning thing. But what usually happens with crunch in the bigger corporations, hence some trauma coming now here, is that usually it happens that one time your team managed to pull something off, let's say for 2 weeks, like, and do it. But then overlords see that, oh, you can do this in 2 weeks, so now they expect you next time to do it as well, which is not the case. So when you estimate next thing and say to from the producer forward, like, this will take us 2 months instead of 2 weeks, they're like, but how this took you last time? Say no, because we did this was exceptional thing for that moment. Otherwise, this is the amount of work and stuff we to take. So protect your team, especially as leaders. You need to protect your team. So communicate that, to really set the boundaries and advocate for these things, and always have a buffer. Even if your team member says, oh, I need 2 weeks for this, say 4. Say 4 to your client, for your producer, for whoever, 4 weeks. And then if you do it in 2, yay, but also even so, you have more time. You don't need to even say after 2 weeks. Guess what? You can say in a little bit over, let's say 3 weeks, because you even had time to find your own bugs, issues, polish further, but without anyone stressing you down. So that's the thing of communicating and trusting and not being afraid to say to each other these things. So yeah, communication.
Thank you so much. I think your case, Caro.
Well, in our case, of course, agreeing on communication, of course, yeah. I think that I think making the team part of the planning is something absolutely vital, and sometimes I've seen multiple times where that doesn't happen. So it's really important for me to plan. Planning is crucial to avoid burnout, and not only for having specific deadlines and specific milestones. That's fantastic. There is tons of things that can happen in the middle, and they always happen often. So yeah, you can have all of that, but I think that's something that every human being doesn't handle properly is uncertainty in general. And I think that uncertainty is something that can bring people to burn out really fast, because if you can see what is going to happen and what are the consequences of if we are on a delay of that, and you know that, you can plan things for that. But for that you have to have a clear plan, a clear vision for everybody. It's not necessary to go into minor, super detailed details like I will take 2 hours and 3 minutes. That doesn't help anybody, but trying to avoid this uncertainty of what will it happen if, what's the case if this fails. I think that trying to kill this uncertainty, it's vital, and it can help a lot not going through burnout. And also getting to know, you've said that each member of the team taking time not only to talk but to listen a lot to your team. It's not a matter of talking and explaining. Sometimes it's a matter of listening to and actively listening to what the team is telling you, to understand that what can bring me to burnout, it's absolutely different of what other people can bring to burnout. So taking the time to listen what each member needs, and what you said, right? Everybody likes more things or dislikes others. And if you have the chance and you can adapt and you can bring to that people the work they enjoy and they like, if they are under stress, they will be handling way better than if you are under stress doing something you hate. So I think that listening and understanding and sometimes it's personal life of each person, as you said, and there is nothing bad in saying that sometimes you break that line of professionalism where there is only work on that. We all have lives, and listening to that and understanding that not everybody can be going on a good time sometimes. It's good to understand that maybe it's not the time to pressure that person in that moment, because like you listen to them. So for me it would be that. In the most technical side, it would be deleting uncertainty through planning, a lot of planning, and involving the team in that planning, and then getting to know each people and each person of the team to understand what can bring them to burnout, and of course trying to avoid it as much as we can.
Thank you so much. A lot of insights about how we can avoid burnout in our teams, and super cool, because if we can summarize a little bit, include your teams in the conversations, set boundaries, and take care of your team. At the end of the day, again, your team is what is producing this great game that you're going to release someday, take care of your team. Thank you. Let's go for the final discussion of this roundtable that is about conflict resolution and empathy in leadership. So let's talk about the importance of empathy. That is, a skill that all the leads should have. How does empathy help you lead your team, guys? Maybe let's invert the flow again. Carolina, how does empathy help you in your role as a leader?
How empathy helps me in leading the team? Well, I mean, for me, it's been vital, and maybe too much on that. Sometimes I go a little bit over it, but it's been vital to getting to understand and love my team in the end. I think empathy is something you need to practice both sides. And as leaders, I think we tend to think that we need to be like ice, like there is this myth about not sharing, not opening, not explaining, because professionalism and our big barrier in front of us. And for me, it's something that I've never felt comfortable with. So I think empathy goes both sides. I do empathize with my team and trying to understand, as I said, what is going on their lives, if they are okay or not in the company, if they are feeling fine. And it goes the other way too. I mean, it's really difficult to expect openness if you are not open on that too. So I think it's a matter of trusting and building that trust with the team, which is really important. And if you have empathy and you get to understand what's going on each person, it's really easier to understand why things are happening, sometimes you get a bad phase or you get bad results on things that this is not what I expected from that person. What's going on? It's not normal to get that from that person, and you can understand that instead of finding multiple and wrong solutions. If you listen to that person and you just try to understand what's going on the other side. So for me, it's been vital and really pleasant, honestly. Like personally, super good to go on that direction.
Cool. Thank you. Natasha?
I mean, because if we're talking about this kind of technical disagreements, right? Or are we generally talking about like the conflict between team members? Like, because there is a difference. If there is kind of like in the project, if someone is disagreeing how things should be, basically I've already said, like, this is where get your things out of your system, meaning that let's game jam it. Let's find these different solutions together, like dedicate, sure, let's next 2 days just jam this conflict out of, like, meaning if it's a technical thing, let's find this solution together. Or these, like, basically, if this person has vision of how it should be and this person has a vision how it should, show it. Show us, like, because again, everyone is very much, because the reason is this, we are all creatives here, and we are having common goal and want the best for the product together. So nobody's forcing us to do this game. It's our game, right? So we are passionate about it. And therefore, if someone comes with some suggestion, it doesn't come out of nowhere. They have a reason for it. And maybe, especially coders, happen to be really bad at communicating their ideas to the fellow humans in a human, as the language of human. So therefore, allow them to express themselves the best way they can, and that's through code, through showing, through, figuring out. So again, back to listening and doing all of that. Like, allow people to express why they see that something should be done the way it is, and then evaluate together. And then, because that's same like academic discourse, questioning things. The only way you come to innovation is through questioning. And it's perfectly fine to question each other and ourselves, in the sense that when we are creating something that it's not for us, but it's for others, it's for the players. So the thing is that we need to question, because we only can assume what the player will do before we actually give the product to the player to test it even. So don't be afraid to do that. Like, that's the thing, like, allow it to happen, allow the communication to happen, but find a way that safe, that the environment is safe, that you are allowed to express yourself in whichever way fits you as an individual. So that's where the processes come, that you adjust your processes to the people, not people to the processes. So create, and that takes time, because of course people will learning, especially if you have a new team member to come in, okay, how that, so it's learning curve, but communicating and being that open, knowing that this conflict, so that's, we haven't ever had big conflicts. It was more like how can we improve something? Or it can be, we would really love to do it this way, but maybe for whatever reason we can't technically. So it's okay, how can we make it then with the resources we have, or the talent we have, or the thing, or do we need to outsource or get another team to help us with that? But together find that solution. But now when it comes to the conflicts between a team, again, I really didn't have that big. We haven't had any. I was really maybe lucky, but this sort of but this kind of again, everything is part of the creative process and the trust. So also others, when they come and express their kind of ways of what they want, how they want, everyone else listens as well, just because they are they know that they have been listened as well. So it's don't just talk the talk, do the walk. So that's basically what has been really good for us as well, that we are preventing these conflicts. So it's more like creative discourse, where it's design things, or artists no, but what do you do? Okay, and then they do start sketching themselves, or programmers doing kind of their own little jam, and it's okay, and then now so we come even with completely new things. Mostly that's where innovation happens, that you're hey, our initial thing sucked, let's actually do this thing, and then the whole team is behind it, and we pivot towards that, and it feels good, and everyone's happy. So, but you have to really listen to your people and find a way that works for each individual, that clicks together. Back in strengths, weaknesses have to be merged together.
But yeah, that is the part when the leader also needs to understand what are the weaknesses and
Yes.
the points of improvement of their team in general.
Yeah, but listening is one of the most important skills in that, especially as a leader. But also, as a leader, how many leaders we have here? Raise your hand. Also, someone has to take care of you, and you are also human. So the point is, tell them openly. I tell to my team, guys, I'm done. I am done. I'm now going to go under the blanket and hide from the world for about 10 minutes. Okay? Yeah. So basically, you're also human, and communicate that. So as a leader, because, and they will, by the way, take it. Do you know how many times, colleagues, because they realized that I didn't eat because I forgot.
Been there.
They brought me stuff. No, you're gonna now eat. You're gonna do this, and just like I do for them. But that's the thing. Take care of each other, and also as a leader, you don't always have to be you're also fellow human. So, and they will know that by, again, communicating and building that trust. So, just be a fellow human.
Thank you. Lali, how does empathy help you to be a better leader in general?
I agree with you completely, Natasha. What can I say? But yeah, empathy is super important. It's not only to put yourself in someone else's shoes, what I say. It's also to actively listen to your team, and understand what's the strength and the weak part of that person or that professional, and help them grow. That's super important. I try not to push if I know that's not the expertise, or that's not the way they want to go in. And in the other way around, I try to push them if I know that they have some interest, they want to grow in certain direction, and that's all about listening. If you don't listen, you will never know. And that's about making a team. And completely agree that the team, it's based on people. So it's people, product, and company, basically, not the other way around. And if you don't listen to the people, then they might not respect you because they don't see the leadership in you. Leadership is not only about leading the team as an unit, it's the team as a whole, and the whole other people. The team with other people is nothing.
Yeah, if I may, just because the thing is that when people ask me, especially CEO role, like, and it's my company, as I'm the founder, one of the founders, and all that. So it's like how do no, you're making decisions. Like, first of all, I'm nothing without my team, so that's where the kind of like it comes there. But also, I actually my day job is that I work for my team. That's my job. It's not working for my company. I work for my team. They are my goal. They are my. I report basically to them when you think about it, to make their life as best possible workplace, and so like that they can do stuff, enable them to achieve their best selves, either professional, but also that they have time for their families and everything else that they're interested in, or extra studies if they want to pursue, other degrees and whatnot, change maybe discipline, like literally switch between this discipline to another. So enabling them to really grow within themselves, like who they are. So my job is really as a leader, like I work for that. That's how I see it. I work for them, because without them, there is like,
Yeah, without
who am I leading if there is no team? Like,
Exactly.
So what is happening?
But I really like what you said, that it's not the team reporting to you, but you're reporting to the team. That makes this kind of glue, that makes everything consistent, and help them to actually achieve their goals. So super interesting. For the last part, actually, we had a Q&A, but since we're running out of time, we can do it as sync. So if you want to ask anything to our panelists, feel free to just pass by the part of next to the panel, And thank you so much, guys, for this conversation. It was super insightful. I hope it was really useful for the leads of the future. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Perfect.